All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, a couple of years ago when Dak Prescott first burst onto the scene in one of the Dallas Cowboys preseason games against the Seattle Seahawks, Troy Aikman was one of his foremost supporters. He noted Dak Prescott's great maturity, his great decision-making, and his accuracy. Well, for those of you brothers out there who remember Troy Aikman back when he played, he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks to ever play. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, but he played in an offense that was more focused on the running attack. But when they did decide to throw the ball, Troy Aikman was one of the most effective throwers of the football of that era and of all time. They had Alvin Harper to stretch the defense. They had Michael Irvin run the slants. They had Jay Novacek. And once again, Troy Aikman was known for his great pinpoint accuracy. So for him to come out and state that Dak Prescott has a problem with his accuracy, that's something that I take very, very seriously, because he's not someone with an axe to grind against Dak Prescott. He's an objective observer who once again has been there, done that. So the tide is starting to turn on Dak Prescott. I'm still a believer that he can be an effective quarterback in the NFL. I think that the Cowboys have done a terrible job getting him the appropriate wide receivers. I think that his offensive line has taken a couple of steps back. I think that he's lost one of the great helps that he had last season with the tight end Jason Witten retiring. So I think that the Cowboys need to do a better job with their schematics, with their offensive game plan, and also in the offseason with their personnel. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, guys, let's stay in the division. The 2-3 Cowboys also struggling, not quite as badly. And Troy Aikman.
And I still believe that the Cowboys are going to finish second in the division after the Eagles.
Aikman is calling out Dak Prescott, saying this: he needs to be more accurate with the football. I've said for many, many years.
Now, just looking at Troy Aikman's face, it's very obvious to me that somewhere up his family line, there's a Negro there somewhere. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I've always said that about Troy Aikman. Somewhere up his family tree, about 7 or 8 generations back, there's a Negro there.
Years, as long as I can ever remember, when I'm asked, hey, what do you look for first in a quarterback? The first thing I look for is accuracy, because the rest of it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not quite sure if I entirely agree with the rest of it doesn't matter, but I agree. The main thing that a quarterback has to be is accurate. They have to be accurate, and they have to put the ball in the proper place at the proper time. There's no doubt about that. Accuracy is more important than arm strength even, because Joe Montana was extremely accurate. He did not have the zip of a John Elway or a Brett Favre, but he can get it there. He can get it there on time.
Matter. Max, is Dak getting too much of the blame?
Nope, not right now. Right?
I agree. I think that right now Dak Prescott is getting a decent amount of the blame. I think that he's getting the amount of blame that he deserves right now, because they're expecting him to be a transcendent quarterback. And to be a transcendent quarterback, you have to make average receivers look above average, and he's not doing that. He's also not getting his tight end involved as well as he probably should. Now, of course, there's been a major drop-off from a Jason Witten, who's going to be a Hall of Fame tight end. But once again, Dak Prescott is a so-called black quarterback, so he's always going to be held under a higher amount of scrutiny. And he does have to step his game up. And he's always going to be evaluated in light of how successful he was in his rookie campaign.
Right now, Dak is getting legitimate blame. And look, when I was a kid, if a quarterback had a 50% completion rate, that was good. He was good.
I agree. Even when I started watching football in 1990, if you were a good quarterback, you normally completed 60% and above. That was the line of demarcation from below average and good, or average and good, was 60% completion percentage. Nowadays, you have to be completing high 60s to be considered a good quarterback. If you're completing under 60% of your passes, you're probably not an NFL quarterback in today's NFL.
Now 65% is average! And Dak, it's not just, well, look, the completion percentage is not bad, but you see him leaving bigger plays on the field all the time. My criticism of Eli.
That happens oftentimes when you don't have confidence in your offensive line. That's one of the telltale signs of a shell-shock quarterback. He has jittery feet in the pocket. He's looking around. There are guys open. He's scared to throw down the football field. He's always looking to check off or dump off to the running back. That's a telltale sign that he's suffering from shell shock.
Eli. By the way, two quarterbacks I've defended a lot in recent years, Eli and Dak. But it gets to the point where you consistently see them not seeing the field. So if you're not going to see the field, and you're not going to be among the more accurate passers, what are you doing? This is a new NFL. Every rule, and the roughing the passer rules now really make it ridiculous. I mean, Tom Brady, forget my Cliff argument, if you can't touch him, they can play quarterback forever.
Well, that's been my point about Tom Brady. You have to reevaluate exactly what your line of demarcation for falling off is, Max Kellerman. Because in today's NFL, when you can't touch the quarterback, that's going to elongate their careers. You're going to have quarterbacks playing into their late 40s, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You're going to have quarterbacks playing into their late 40s. And then because so many of these offenses are based off of dumping offs and check-offs and screen patterns, I mean, it's so easy for quarterbacks to accumulate big numbers now.
It's not just the way the offenses have changed and all those things. It's the rules protecting the quarterback. You cannot get by with a level of production that Dak has been giving you recently. He's not seeing the field well enough to, and he's regressed. Guys, I was saying he's a franchise quarterback for a long time now. It's become a question. This level of play from Dak is not good enough in the...
I'm willing to let him last the season. As of now, I've been a relative supporter of Dak Prescott. I want to see how he plays out the rest of the season. As I stated before the season, this is going to be a touchstone season for him because Dallas does not want to have to pay him. But they're in the position where they basically have to give the keys to the vehicle over to him because of how well he played in his rookie season and the fact that Tony Romo is retired.
The modern NFL, you look at all the quarterbacks in the league, the young quarterbacks, no one can, I mean, they are so accurate now. They're reading the field so well because there are fewer reads, right? You don't have to go through the same progression. That Dak's play simply isn't good enough. You have to contextualize it in its era. Not good enough.
I agree. That's the bottom line of it. As of right now, Dak Prescott's play is not good enough. I don't think that he's quite as terrible as many of the Dallas Cowboy fans are making him out to be, but he's going to have to step his game up. They have 11 games left. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have to go at least, I would say, 8-3 to say we're definitely going to make the playoffs. That will put them at 10-6. That will give them a real chance to make the playoffs, and that would at least allow Dak Prescott to say that I had a successful or a relatively successful third-year campaign. I had diminished quality at wide receiver and tight end, and I still made it happen. And at the end of the season, if Dak Prescott's numbers are somewhere around 3,700 yards, say 25 touchdowns, and 10 or less interceptions, I would say that he still would have a good claim to being the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. But he's going to need those numbers, and he's going to need that level of win productivity.
Disagree with you. And I'm not saying that I disagree with you about Dak Prescott not being good enough. I know that he has to be better. But when you talk about him receiving too much blame, he is receiving too much blame. Because when you have a head coach like Jason Garrett, who has no business being the head coach, when you got Scott Linehan, who isn't getting it done as well.
I agree with all that, Stephen A. Smith. They have issues with their offensive schematics. But the plays that are there, he's not making them right now. He has to make the plays that are there for his team.
That has a lot to do with the lack of success that Dak Prescott is going. And let's go upstairs and think about how we've lamented the fact that Dez Bryant is better than any option at receiver that they have right now.
It's so amazing to me. Last season, all we heard about was how terrible a wide receiver Dez Bryant was. We heard it from Shannon Sharpe. We heard it from Chris Carter. Shannon Sharpe and Chris Carter basically ran Dez Bryant out of the NFL. And now these same guys are talking about how Dez Bryant should get a chance at another job. It's amazing to me how much power the media has and how flagrantly they abuse it.
It's Cole Beasley, whether it's Terrence Williams, whether it's Allen Hurns or whomever. The reality is from a personnel standpoint, they're challenged. Getting open is a challenge to them, regardless of what the hell Cole Beasley say. Okay? The offensive line is not what it used to be because of injuries, even though it's still decent. The reality is clear. Dak Prescott doesn't have the help he should have on the offensive side of the ball. Ezekiel Elliott is a stud. He's suffering more than anybody because they're stacking the line of scrimmage. They're doing everything they can to stop it from running.
Right, but you know what? He's still leading the NFL in rushing. So let's not talk about Ezekiel Elliott right now. Let's stick with Dak. Right now, Dak has to make the plays that are available for him to make. Is his offensive line as good? No. Are his receivers as good? No. Is his tight end as good? No. Is the coaching up to par for what a young quarterback needs to be fully successful in the NFL? Probably not. But still, in all, this is his third year in the same system. He should know where all the receivers are supposed to be, and there are a bevy of overthrows and underthrows and misaligned throws that he's made throughout the season. So he does deserve a certain amount of scrutiny. There's no doubt about that.
They daring Dak Prescott to pass, but Dak Prescott is standing in the pocket holding on to the ball. Why? Because guys ain't open. They ain't open. And when they ain't open, and you are Jason Garrett, and you're just coaching in a very conventional fashion, you're not taking chances, you're not doing a lot of those things, Teddy. I don't have any problem by saying Dak Prescott doesn't deserve most of the blame. That would be Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan. 30th ranked passing attack, 30th ranked offense.
I'll say this. I mean, there was a point when during that Texan.
That's amazing, too. They have the 30th ranked offense, and they're 2-3. Their defense has been amazing this season. I was watching, I can't remember what, was it Sunday Night Football? Byron Jones is the #1 ranked cornerback in the NFL right now.
Texan game, and I'm watching the play calling by Scott Linehan, and I was actually encouraged by it. He was being creative at times, getting open receivers off of play action or off of offensive creativity. I'll just say it that way. So I liked that. However, you can only do that so much. And I think Troy's right, because even the easy throws sometimes, these receivers are having to make tough catches.
Absolutely.
I mean, balls off of the ground. I mean, place maybe a foot where they should be leading the receiver rather than behind. And in NFL defensive football, a difference in placement of a foot is huge. It's a difference between an interception or a pass defense.
I noticed that as well. I noticed that Dak Prescott's feet always seem to be misaligned in some way. He always seems to be throwing off balance.
Or a completion.
He throws the football like he has Pat Mahomes' arm, and he doesn't.
That type of accuracy is needed at times when it's going to be 3rd and 7. The receivers they're going to be covered, and you're just going to have to make a throw in a place where a defender can't make the play. Those type of throws, I don't see a lot from Dak Prescott. It continues for me to run through Zeke Elliott and the play-action pass, because I think Dak Prescott is a better off of play-action pass, and that's how you get more open receivers.
Yeah, but you know, even with that, he's going to have to improve his accuracy either way, even with the play-action, because a lot of their passing attack is based off of the play-action, and the accuracy is still an issue. He's going to have to improve his accuracy, and I'm not quite sure if that's something that quarterbacks can do. Accuracy tends to be something that quarterbacks are born with.
Secondary reaction by defenses are probably can be a step behind when you have a play action pass, any type of misdirection in the backfield. That's what helps him. But when it's 3rd and 7, I get him in 3rd and long. I know as a defender, I'm just going to have a chance to make a play on the ball, because it's either he's going to throw it to me or it's not going to be an accurate throw, and I can't make a play.
Accuracy. Teddy, that accuracy to me, because people look at completion percentage, that's accuracy. And I brought up the Giants and Eli before because I defended Eli and Dak, but the league has changed. You cannot just kind of get the ball to not that you ever really could, but once upon a time when the scores were lower and the offenses were in the spread out, it was easier. Dak is like Eli in the sense that when he gets the receiver the ball, the defense is on the receiver, and that's even when he doesn't always get the receiver the ball. He doesn't always see the field, and he's not always accurate, but even when he does, it's never on the guy's steps. So you want to know why Saquon Barkley with New York doesn't have more yards per carry? He's getting sacked in the backfield, and whenever he has to receive the ball, the defense is on him. He has to stop, he has to go back, he has to wait, he has to reach behind him, he has to jump for it. Dak.
Okay, but this conversation is not about Saquon Barkley. It's about Dak, and we get it. Not only is Dak not accurate, but his timing is off in regards to when he delivers the throw. I agree. And that's what I stated earlier in the video in regards to Joe Montana. That's what made him so great, or one of the things that made him so great. And his arm was underrated. Joe Montana was not known for having a great arm. His arm was better than people gave it credit for. But beyond that, the timing of his throws was always impeccable.
Dak is the same thing. It's not good enough. And Stephen A., your point about coaching, of course, you see what happened with Jared Goff when he was with Jeff Fisher and didn't have the weapons at receiver. Not the same guy. Now it's a different story. But still, you're the quarterback. You got to be better than Dak has been. He deserves some blame.
And even if they're not accurate, it's the difference between your playmakers being an athlete, having the opportunity to be a playmaker because it's thrown behind them or not accurate, and it's a tackle right there rather than a catch and a run.
All right, we got to leave it right
I
there.
never said Dak Prescott doesn't deserve blame. I said he doesn't deserve most of it. that would go to the coach and the offensive coordinator. Those were my words.
Right, but Steve, Scott Linehan was the same offensive coordinator that Dak had when he was a rookie. So, I agree with you. There is a certain lack of imagination in the offensive scheming, but I think that the two main issues right now with the Dallas Cowboy offense, number one is personnel. Number two is Dak is not as accurate as he needs to be.
Fair enough. The team that Teddy won.
But anyway, that's it on that. We'll see how things go for Mr. Dak Prescott. As I've already stated, he's 2-3 on the season. He's going to have to go 8-3 for the rest of the year in order for him, in my view, to maintain his value as starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that there's a building bonfire with Dak Prescott's name on it anyway, if he's not careful, especially in light of many of the statements that he made that were offensive to the pro-blackity blacks. But we'll see. Peace.